A new study from Kaiser Permanente shows 1 in 23 teens here in Southern California is eligible for weight loss surgery.
And joining us now to talk more about the findings is the study's lead author, Dr. Jeffrey Schwimmer. And Dr. Schwimmer, thank you so much for joining us and to talk about this important topic. So let's start with the basics. Why did you think this study was necessary, and really what does it show?
So a year ago, the American Academy of Pediatrics told us that children 13 and older who meet certain clinical criteria should have weight loss surgery available to them. So we want to know how many people that was. So my team partnered with Kaiser Permanente to look at over 500,000 teenagers across Southern California, and we found that 4.4% of all teens meet these criteria for weight loss surgery.
So that's 1 in 23.
That's 1 out of every 23.
So, a lot of people say, oh, like 13 years old, 14, 15, like that's awfully young. Can you talk to us a little bit about the side effects, about the efficacy of doing something like this at a young age?
So metabolic and bariatric surgery, we now do have 10-year data to show that it is very effective for treating things like diabetes, and that when done at centers of excellence, that those children do well. There's a real gap, though, in how many of those are available.
And when the returns came in, so to speak, and these conclusions were drawn or revealed, 1 in 23, where's that put you on the alarm level in terms of where children are with obesity?
So we've known for a while that rates of obesity were high and growing. What we're seeing now is the rates of severe obesity have gotten much worse, and the comorbid health conditions associated with this, the liver disease, the diabetes, the heart disease, the sleep apnea, those have been increasing as well.
Do we know why exactly it's been increasing? Like, you might look at a certain ailment and say, well, we didn't know enough back in the past to count the numbers right for, let's just say, diabetes. But when it comes to obesity, we can recognize that. So why is that number increasing in today's society?
The increase is due to a multitude of different factors. There's not one simple thing we can point to. But everything has changed in society over the last 30 years. What we eat has changed. Our activity, our sedentary time, what we do in school, what we do at home, how much time we're on now a screen in our hand. Everything looks so different.
And people are looking for quick fixes. I mean, we can get everything in the palm of our hand in the form of a smartphone. So the surgery seems pretty drastic, and the study is not saying all these kids should have this surgery, but saying they qualify for it, correct?
It's a very important distinction, and the reality is that the approach needs to be individualized. Each child needs to be taken into consideration, their specific needs as a child, in the context of their family, whether they have these health conditions or not, whether there's something they're interested in having or not. What the AAP was calling out is, we have a tool that is effective and safe, so it should be available. Now what we have to do is work through who really should have it among those that are eligible.
Yeah, so if we look at the information we were just talking about a second ago, where we're eating worse food as a society, or we're more sedentary, we're playing more video games, we're on our phones more, wouldn't some people argue maybe that the approach would be not surgery, something so drastic, but we can change our lifestyles as a society?
Well, we've been saying that for a long time, and
it's just not happening.
There's so much stigma around obesity.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that may be difficult to reconcile is the more we stigmatize obesity, the worse it gets. And people tend to internalize some of this stigma. So it's not as simple to say, hey, make society better, magic wand done today. What we appreciate is there's a growing number of teenagers who have a level of disease that is going to lead to a shortened lifespan. And if there's something we can do to help make that better, we should try to do that.
Yeah, it's sort of an intervention, so to speak. So explain what you would like to see done with these findings.
I think that it's really about awareness on every level. So on the physician level, we need to do a better job with early identification. We know that we can tell as young as 5 or 6 who are the kids that are on the path to getting to this place. So
that early?
Yes. We need to give the primary care physicians those tools, but when you look very careful at growth patterns from birth through age 6, you can often identify who's going to be at this stage as a teenager.
And Dr. Schwimmer, before we let you go, can we just talk about what the surgery is like? And we're talking about the potential for 13, 14, 15, all the way up to 18 years old to be eligible for this. So what is that surgery and how invasive is it?
So there are different operations. The most common operation right now is what's called a gastric sleeve, where the stomach is stapled and made smaller. It's typically done laparoscopically. It's usually about a 45-minute operation with a one-night stay or sometimes as an outpatient.
And it just suppresses diet at that point? Is that how it works?
Well, the smaller stomach, correct?
It's a smaller stomach. It also changes the hormonal structure. So there are a number of hormones made by the stomach and the intestine, and the surgery affects those as well.
All right, well, really fascinating study, and obviously something that a lot of people need to be aware of, and be interesting to follow to see where this goes from here.
All right, Dr. Schwimmer, thank you so much. We appreciate your insight and your work as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.